Politicians getting murdered. Parades going on in the nation's capital. Protests going on all across the country. And meanwhile, there's still an NBA Finals going on. And Ice Cube, with his basketball league, ain't going anywhere either. The Stephen A. Smith Show in the house. Lots to discuss. Let's go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Coming at you, as I love to do at the very least 3 times a week over the digital airwaves of YouTube and, of course, iHeartRadio. I'm on the road coming at you from Oklahoma City, where I'm covering the NBA Finals, Game 5 tonight between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. So I hope that you like my confines for this particular edition of the show. As always, I'd like to take a moment to thank my followers and subscribers, the millions of downloads we received over iHeartRadio, along with the 1.24 million subscribers that we've eclipsed over the digital airwaves of YouTube. Can't thank y'all for the love and support enough. Keep it coming, and I'm going to keep on coming. To continue to like and follow the show, just click the bell to get notified for all of our newest content, and you too shall consider yourself the latest member of the Stephen A. Smith Show family. And while you're doing that, please make sure to pick up a copy of my New York Times best-selling book, Straight Shooter, a memoir of second chances and first takes, now in paperback. Just go to straightshooterbook.com to get yourself a copy. Once again, that's straightshooterbook.com to get yourself a copy. I got a lot of stuff to get into, and of course, I'm going to get to the NBA Finals a little bit later on to tell you who's going to win Game 5 tonight, because this series is unfolding and it's turning out to be a doozy. Make no mistake about that. But there's more serious issues to get into before I get into any of that. So let's get started. In Minnesota, where there were 2 shootings, both of which appeared to have been politically motivated by a man arrested late last night. Officials say the gunman, posing as a police officer, fatally shot State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband Saturday at their home. That shooting came after he wounded State Senator John Hoffman and his wife at their home. After the first attack, police said they proactively checked on Representative Hortman's home, where they found a shooter posing as an officer before he fled. The suspect, Vance Bolter is his name, was arrested Sunday after what a local police chief called the largest manhunt in state's history. Bolter is charged with 2 counts each of second-degree murder and second-degree attempted murder, which are likely to be upgraded to first degree. Bolter is also being charged in federal court with 1 count of stalking Representative Hortman, 1 count of stalking Senator Hoffman, 2 counts of murder through use of a firearm, punishable up to death, by the way, and 2 counts of firearms offenses for the shootings of the Hoffmans. The shootings happened Saturday in what turned out to be a tense day in national politics. Thousands of people across the country participated in No Kings protest against the Trump administration. All this while the president himself hosted a military parade celebrating 250 years of the Army in Washington, D.C. Couple of things to get out of the way. Number one, my condolences to loved ones of the Hortmans. Obviously, that is a tragedy, an unspeakable tragedy, something none of us should condone. We should cheer. We should celebrate in any way. It's heinous as it comes. As far as I'm concerned, if this is indeed the assailant, the one who committed this crime, Mr. Bolter, I have no problem with him receiving the death penalty whatsoever. Let's get that out of the way first. I'm a believer in that under special circumstances. This is one of them. He should be put to death as far as I'm concerned. I have no problem with that. That's number one. Number two, obviously to the Hoffmans, I hope that they end up recovering and they be well as they end up well and they'll recuperate as well. So my heart goes out to them and what they've had to endure and experience. And the violence and the rhetoric, this is not isolated along party lines. Both sides of the political aisle has engaged in rhetoric. I'm not going to say stirring or inciting violence, but certainly the rhetoric has been harsh. And this is what I try to tell people in America all the time and beyond when we're talking about these issues. I cover sports for a living as my day job. Ladies and gentlemen, people get passionate about sports. If people get passionate about a game where folks win and folks lose, even when they're not gambling on it, they're not losing money on it, they're just emotionally invested in their particular team and the outcome, what do you think they feel about the economy? if it detrimentally affects them? What do you think they're thinking about representatives when it involves immigration, when it involves healthcare, when it involves education? You're talking about people's lives, quality of life being impacted by elected officials. This is why I continuously point out how the rhetoric has to die down. We got to agree to disagree. We can disagree without being so disagreeable, without engaging in a kind of incendiary rhetoric where we're constantly pointing the finger at one side or another, showing an inability to work together, or at least giving that impression, and then wondering how stuff like this could happen. According to the police and according to the reports, Mr. Bolter had a manifesto in a vehicle that he was driving, by the way, which was disguised as a police vehicle. And he had on a police outfit, according to the reports. And they said in the manifesto, he had targeted over 70 people. Some were politicians. Some were pro-abortion advocates. So you have to take those things into consideration and wonder, in God's name, what do you think is going to happen if you're talking about people like that? And you're pointing the finger of blame. And you're not giving the impression we're discussing, we're negotiating, we're getting along. Everybody can't have everything that they want, but we're aligned in some of our thinking. Half the time they're agreeing with one another on both sides of the aisle. They don't even tell us. And then you wonder how you have some people on the fringes, particularly the extremists, and what they're going to do. One of the things that somebody pointed out, and they pointed this out, and I had to remember this. One person texted me, they said, did you see the expression on a guy's face when they caught him? Talking about Bolter. They said, did you see the facial expression on the guy who shot up the embassy weeks ago? Did you see the guy's face who shot up the healthcare, who shot the healthcare CEO, Luigi, when they caught him? They said, did you see how extremists look, Stephen A? Calm. Calm. So we have to fight extremism. We have to fight stuff on the fringes on both sides of the aisle. We have to make sure that there's a line that everybody knows should never be crossed. Yes, it's happened throughout history. President Reagan got shot. Abraham Lincoln got shot. Folks in between got shot. We got that part. Steve Scalise, representative, he got shot. All of these things. The former representative in Arizona, she got shot. The point is not normalizing it, not walking around like it's okay. Now, as it pertains to what's been going on in the streets of America, we're talking about Trump and the Trump administration celebrating 250 years of the Army. Perfectly within his right to do so, but let's be real, it was a bit over the top. Showing America's might and America's strength. Well, if we know we have it, why do we need to show off? We're considered the richest, most powerful country in the world, right? Everybody knows our military might. Why do we need to showcase it? And why did it have to coincide on the 79th birthday of the 47th president of the United States? Was it about our nation or was it about him? No matter how much he tried to say it wasn't. The flip side to it, however, is that on a day when that parade was taking place, there were thousands upon thousands of protesters across the United States of America. New York, L.A., and every place in between. And it was supposed to be in Minnesota until the police was asking folks not to attend because the shooter was still on the loose. And what were they protesting? ICE and migrants being grabbed in the streets by members of ICE in an effort to ultimately deport them. And folks were coming to the defense of it. You had the state of California suing the Trump administration. You have people talk about no kings, no kings. He's not a dictator. This is not an authoritarian regime. But that's why he's trying to make it like, well, really? That's why the state's suing him. That's why he's losing some of these cases in court. Last time I checked, you're in a position of power. You try to get your way. Somebody sues you, they fend you off by going through our court system. The court system makes a ruling, and as a result, it shows that our system works. What is Trump doing differently than what he campaigned on? You may not like it. That's why you win the election, so he's not in a position to do it. As opposed to focusing on stuff that ain't going to win an election. And then I talked to some folks on that side of the aisle, and these are the kind of messages that I'm getting. It's the Democrats' only way to be relevant. They have no answers to help Americans. They don't go over the top for American criminals. Our prisons are full of people separated from their families. They didn't say anything about those folks. Most of the leaders of the protest are paid agitators. You get into the Iran-Israeli conflict, something else that the United States could end up in the middle of because Israel ain't playing games. They're going after all of their enemies. They're not playing games. We already seen what they've done in Gaza. We know how they're trying to disarm Iran's ability to build a nuclear weapon, and they're hell-bent on doing so. We know that we were in negotiations with Iran, and ultimately we scaled that back, and then all of a sudden Israel attacks. Now you've got officials from Iran saying there's no reason to have talks because there's no way that America didn't know about this and that this was coming, etc. With all of that going on, then you have folks on the right saying, what's new? Destroying Iran's military nuclear sites is a good thing. We'll also destroy Hezbollah and Hamas, ISIS as well, being that they were funded by Iran. So every time you sit there, you throw something in their direction, the other side has something to say. No matter which way you slice it, in the end, America is in a quandary. At some point in time, you're going to have to come together. You don't have to like everything about Trump. I don't like what he's doing in California. I don't like what he's doing with the migrants. I don't like it at all. And I think that he caught himself because he mandated a pause on the raids when it came to agriculture, hotels, restaurants, etc., because those businesses were being detrimentally affected. And he's going to need those folks supporting him, particularly in the midterms. So you can make sure the GOP members remain in the House and the Senate. But in the end, what it comes down to is that, is he overstepping his hand? Probably so. But to the right, he's doing what he campaigned on. So in their eyes, he's keeping his word. They don't mind that because they don't believe politicians on the left have done that. No matter which way you slice it, it's an absolute mess. We got Israel and Iran going at it. Over 250 missiles being dropped on one another. We still got the conflict with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. We still see that going on. We got a tariff situation here. You know what folks are going to say, right? The right. Tariffs, $10 trillion in investments for manufacturing in auto, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors. That's what they're going to say. They're going to say Iranian nuke threat about to be finished for our lifetime. Save us from a modern-day Holocaust. That's what they're going to say. Whatever point the left is going to have, the right is going to have a counterpoint to justify anything that Trump is doing. Where's the solution? Can't see one in sight. Here's the biggest problem. Peace is not a part of this equation, even within our own borders. We're at each other's throat. No sight of coming together in sight. It's pretty bad right now. And it looks to be getting worse. This looks to be getting worse. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Coming up, don't look now, but season 8 of the Big Three tipped off this weekend with some fireworks. I've got Ice Cube in the house to talk about that and other things as well. But first, the Minnesota shootings, No Kings protest, and the president celebrates 250 years of the Army on his birthday this weekend. I can only think of one person to talk about all of this and bring stuff into some kind of perspective. Somebody that knows the president pretty well. I'm talking about the one and only Bill O'Reilly. He's up next right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Don't go away. All right, folks, I need you all to stop what you're doing and listen up. You know I love this time of year, right? The NBA Finals are in full effect. And with all this action jumping off, the Stephen A. Smith Show wants to make sure you take advantage of it all. That's why we partnered with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching sports. The app is really easy to use, you know. Just pick more or less on a few player stats, and you can win up to 2,000 times your cash on a single lineup. Best of all, Prize Picks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50 for playing. So use promo code SAS and download the app now. Again, download the app and use code SAS to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, hey, run your game. Now, the Oklahoma City Thunder evened the series against the Indiana Pacers, which now heads back to their home turf, Paycom Center, tonight for Game 5. So I'll give you my picks for Game 5 tonight. First up, will Andrew Nembhard score more or less than 10.5 points? I'm going to go with more. I think the opportunity is going to be there for him to put up some points. I don't think 10.5 points is a lot for this particular player. I think he can do that. I think he will. I'm going to go with more on this one. Next up, will Miles Turner score more or less than 13.5 points? I'm going to go with less. The other day, Miles Turner made an impact defensively and what have you, but offensively, he looked a bit hesitant. He looked a bit scared to try to make things happen. He's not looking to be aggressive, and I don't know if you fixed that in Game 5 when you just struggled with it in Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Might be a little bit too late for that. I'm going to go with less for this on Miles Turner in this particular game on the road in OKC for Game 5. Next up, will Chet Holmgren score more or less than 15.5 points? I think he's going to score less. I think he's going to block shots. I think he's going to rebound. I think he's going to make his presence felt. But I don't think it's going to be on the offensive side of the ball. I think Indiana will be ready for that. I think guys like Jalen Williams and Caruso and others are going to have to step up. I don't think you can rely on Chet Holmgren to score more than 15.5 points when the brother's shooting 9% from three-point range. I'm sorry, I can't give him that. Finally, will Alex Caruso score more or less than 10.5 points? I'm going to go with more because Alex Caruso, I got to tell y'all something. If it wasn't for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander performing the way that he did, if Oklahoma were to win these finals, the MVP would be a toss-up between Jalen Williams and Alex Caruso because Alex Caruso's play on both sides of the ball has been very, very impressive. 1 minute he's scoring 20. Another minute he's hitting threes. Another minute he's guarding Pascal Siakam. Another minute he's guarding somebody like a Tyrese Halliburton or somebody else. The brother's all over the place, and he's the one reliable component coming off of Indiana's bench. Everybody else has been a bit haphazard. You don't know what you're going to get from them from game to game. That is not the case with Caruso. He has been Mr. Reliable. Got a lot of love for Caruso and what we've been seeing him do. So I'm going to go with more on that. So that's more for Andrew Nembhard. Less for Miles Turner, okay? Less for Chet Holmgren and more for Alex Caruso. So that's where I'm at with it. I hope you can appreciate where I'm coming from. By the way, go to Prize Picks app and check out the Stephen A. Smith Show community play. It's boosted 25%. Again, check it out. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Joining me now is a conservative political commentator, actually a registered independent. He's also a best-selling author and obviously an elite television personality. He's been around a long time. He knows what the hell is going on. He is the one and only Mr. Bill O'Reilly. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show, sir. How you doing? How's everything?
You know, I don't know why I'm doing this, but everything else is fine.
What do you mean you don't know why you're doing this? I mean, you're on with your young buddy right here. That's why you're doing this, Bill, because I had to have you on the show because I want to. What the hell is going on, man? We got parades in the nation's capital while protests are going on all over the country. These No King protests that's been taking place all over the United States of America opposing what Donald Trump is doing. In your words, Bill O'Reilly, could you explain to everybody what the hell is going on with the Trump administration in America right now?
Yes, I can, Stephen A. And that's why you're having me on for clarity of thought. Okay, so on BillO'Reilly.com, I write a message every day. Everybody can read it. You don't have to join up. All you have to do is want a perspective. 80 million people voted for Donald Trump. 75 million voted for Kamala Harris. I submit to you that about half of the Harris supporters voted against Trump. They loathe him. And therefore, the No King demonstrations were no surprise to any of us who understand how much fury there is on the left that Donald Trump is president. Doesn't matter what he does. Could be immigration, could be Iran, could be Medicaid, doesn't matter. So when a mass demonstration is called for you're going to get a pretty good turnout. This was low in my estimation across the country. The 200, they say 2,000 protests, but there were really 200 of note. And there weren't that many people, but I wasn't surprised because the immigration has lighted a fuse that the left is just crazed about. So the no king stuff was predictable, didn't really amount to much. Now, the military thing was not well attended, but again, that's predictable. It's Washington, D.C. 3% of voters in the district voted for Trump. 3%. So, yeah, they're not
Mhm.
going to come out and wave at him on his birthday and say, yeah, we like all the tanks. So, most of this stuff, it's whipped up by the media into hysteria, but it's predictable.
And I get where you're coming from, that it's predictable, but in the same breath, don't you find yourself wishing, I don't want to act like optics are everything, but it does matter. You know, you've got a situation where you have this parade going on and celebrating the 250-year anniversary of the Army and what have you. It coincides with his 79th birthday, and it's in the midst of these riots taking place across the United States of America. In one way, you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, it appears to be much ado about nothing. It's just typical people who are against him and against his policies, against his administration. They're going to protest. On the other hand, it seems like he's feeding it as a distractionary measure because of some of the other things that aren't necessarily working, whether it's the tariffs in some people's eyes, whether it's some of the stuff going on with ICE in Los Angeles and beyond, whether it's the war in Ukraine with Russia, Israel and Iran right now, Israel and Hamas before, some of the things that he thought would work, that he swore he would resolve, that's not necessarily what the American people are seeing right now, Bill. What do you say to that? That this is basically an evasive or a distractionary tactic on behalf of the president
Uh,
as we speak? What about that
I
notion?
don't see it that way. It's celebratory. Trump wants to celebrate his position, and so he uses his power to do that. The one thing that Trump miscalculated that is obvious and still vexing him is Ukraine. So he said on day one, I'll solve it, and it would have happened if I were president. Well, that's proved very, very difficult for him. But on all the other fronts, he believes the tariffs are going to heighten the economy. The initial numbers are good for Trump on that. The MAGA base supports the deportations, although I have suggested that the Homeland Security apparatus have a fail safe, if you will, or a mechanism. That mechanism is probably a better word to examine humane situations. So if you're swept up and you're not a criminal migrant, but you're involved with a raid and they take you into custody, there should be a mechanism so that your situation would be examined by Homeland Security. Say you have 3 kids at home, all of whom are American citizens, but you're not. That would be under humane. So they would let you out and not deport you. If Trump would do that, that would take a lot of the sting out of it. But, look, all I can do is suggest patterns of behavior that would be beneficial to the country. And I do. Whether he does them or not, that's up to him.
How much does he listen to you these days, Bill O'Reilly? I mean, listen, when we did when we did our town hall on News Nation, Chris Cuomo, myself, and you, there's no doubt that President Trump would not have called in if it were not for you. I've reported that on many, many occasions. We all know how far your relationship goes back with them, spanning 30 plus years. And I know that you were just recently in China. China asked you to come and see them and talk to them. And I'd like you to elaborate and enlighten my audience as to why that was. But clearly they feel, and rightfully so, that you have the ability, more so than most, to impact the thought process, dare I say, even the actions of the president from time to time because of his respect and his long-time relationship with you. How much do you think he listens to you or anybody else in this day and age?
Well, I think he trusts me because I'll never burn him. So if it's off the record, it's off the record. I talk to him frequently. I never call him. That's an intrusion. I'm a journalist. That's not my job. But when he gets in touch with me, I'm obviously respectful, as I was to Barack Obama, who did that as well. Not as much as Trump, but he did.
It's true.
George W. Bush did. And I answer honestly. So on the China situation, I was invited over there because they watch the Politburo watches me on YouTube. Exactly what we're doing now. The Chinese people can't see YouTube, by the way. They knock it out for, but they watch. And as you rightly assess, they know that I speak with Donald Trump a lot. So they wanted to know about him. And it was an off the record conversation, but I did tell the Politburo, there were 13 of them in the Q&A in Beijing. I'm going to have to debrief the president when I get back. So I'm always up front. I'm like you. I mean, I'm up front. And they said, okay, I said, I can't come over there and do a Q&A with you for an hour and 45 minutes and not tell the president of the United States what it was about. Come on, I'll be deported
Right.
myself. They'll deport me back to Ireland. So I got to tell them.
Mm.
And I did.
Yeah.
And then 3 days later, there was a phone call with Xi. So I could take credit for that, but I'm not going to. But I think that my conversation with the Chinese communists was beneficial. So I calmed them down in certain areas and I illuminated the president's thinking process and others. So after the hour 45 minutes, they had a much better understanding of where Donald Trump is coming from. The second thing is we had dinner afterward. My son, myself, the man who put this together in Beijing, the richest man in China, and his assistant, who were only supposed to be four, but we were joined by the second most powerful man in the country for dinner, which was an amazing experience. I'll tell you what. My son's sitting there, he's 21 years old, and he's listening to the highest level of diplomacy there could possibly be in the biggest story in the world. China-USA relations is the biggest story in the world by far. Because if that doesn't work out, there's going to be vast trouble. If it does work out, if they follow my guidelines to a partnership for peace and prosperity, that's why I went over there to tell them what that was about, then the world will calm down and everyone will be better off. So there's my son, 21, political science major, listening to his father and 13 of the Politburo members. You can imagine that. It's like being in a Nick locker room at halftime, I guess.
Right.
But anyway, look, I love my country. I try to do what's best as far as I see it. And I was stunned by this whole thing. I didn't solicit this; it came to me.
Absolutely, and I know you're telling the truth about that. Well, shoot, I consider you an honest broker, regardless of how people try to attack you or whatever. You've always been a straight shooter with me. I've seen you talking to politicians on both sides of the aisle, right in front of my face, getting on both of them like hell and fury, for crying out loud. So I've had an eyewitness account to that. But let me get back to you before I get back to the States. You said that when you were in China, you talked about your guidelines to peace and prosperity between themselves and the United States of America. Would you mind sharing with this audience what those guidelines were? Some of those guidelines that you
Okay.
doled out to them.
So the past 6 months, I've been working on a policy called the Partnership for Peace and Prosperity between the United States of America and China. And essentially what it says is that the two greatest powers in the world are going to ally together to tamp down chaos and misbehavior all over the world. So we're going to ally. Now, we're never going to agree with them about communism, and it's a police state. It's the most sophisticated police state in the history of mankind. It makes the Nazi regime look like benevolent people. That's how tight the Chinese communists are on their 1.5 billion people. Americans have no idea. You got to carry an ID card every second of your life in China. If you don't, you're in prison. If somebody stops you and there are cops on every corner and asks for your ID, you're a Chinese citizen and you don't have it, gone. It is really
Wow.
unbelievable. So anyway, the peace and partnership prosperity thing says that we're going to work it out as far as trade. We'll help China feed their 1.5 billion. They'll help us in our economy, and then we will tamp down crazy stuff like the mullahs in Iran. So if China and the United States ally against the mullahs, they can't do anything. Same thing with Putin. If China were to say, "Hey, Vlad, get out of there," or we're going to start to fund the Ukrainian government as well, Vlad would have to get out of there. Now, it's a matter of self interest, I understand, but I laid out a pretty solid case. And I said, if that partnership comes, you're going to get a lot of benefit. The Chinese government will get a lot of economic benefit from it. So I'm hoping they consider it.
Coming up, more of Mr. Bill O'Reilly. You're listening and watching The Stephen A. Smith Show. Back with more in a second. All right, everybody, listen up. With all the big-time sports action that's happening each and every day, The Stephen A. Smith Show wants to make sure you are taking advantage of it all. That's why we partnered with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching sports. The app is really easy to use. To make a lineup, all you have to do is pick more or less on a few player stats. Choose from any of your favorite players, Tyrese Halliburton, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Pascal Siakam, all in the same entry. Then sit back and watch. The list is really endless. You can play Prize Picks in over 40 states, including California and Texas. Best of all, Prize Picks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50. So just use promo code SAS and download Prize Picks now. Again, download the app and use code SAS to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Hey, hey, run your game. You know, I'm going to get back to the States because even though I know China and U.S. relations is a huge, huge deal, no question about that, some of the immediate issues going on in this country obviously can't be ignored at this particular moment in time. You saw, and you've been all over the news about the political shooting that took place this weekend. Vance Bolter was arrested as the suspected shooter, former Democratic House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband. He also critically wounded Senator John Hoffman and his wife, both out of Minnesota, of course. He was captured late Sunday following a two-day manhunt. Following the killing, Republican Utah Senator Mike Lee tweeted, quote, "This is what happens when Marxists don't get their way," end quote. So, Bill O'Reilly, I ask you, concerned at all that civility in America is gone? You've been around a long time. You would know the answer to that question. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you keep saying I've been around a long time. It only goes back to U.S. Grant there, Stephen A. So come on.
Yes, sir.
Foolish
Yes, sir.
comment by Senator Lee, who's he's not a dumb man. He never should have made that comment. We've had political assassinations in this country forever, and so is every other country. And these are mentally unstable people that do it, all of them. You can trace every one of them back, and they're all loons. And that's what happened here. So to assign a Marxism to it or a fascism to it, it's irresponsible. I don't traffic in that. I traffic in history. Never going to stop it. It's impossible in a free society. Even in China, as crazy as they control those people, you couldn't stop it. If somebody wanted to kill you and was stalking you, then odds are they'd be able to get to you if you weren't Putin or Xi, who have unbelievable security. So there's nothing other than lamenting the situation. There's no solution to the situation. You are always going to have mentally unstable people who are violent. And that's that. And, you know, if I had a solution, I would put it forth, but I don't.
Doesn't the rhetoric amongst politicians going back and forth, although you're right, history has shown us these kind of things happen. There's always folks on the fringes. There's always extremism that takes place within every nation. This is not going to be any different. Doesn't some of the rhetoric on the part of politicians on both sides of the aisle, one could easily argue that contributes to some of this, Bill?
I don't know. James Garfield was assassinated, and he's no bomb thrower. You know, McKinley, assassinated. In our polarized society with an irresponsible media, a grossly irresponsible media, it's easier to incite. But I don't think it's easier to incite to murder. All right, homicides and with this. I wrote a book and it'll be out September 9th called Confronting Evil. Homicides have been with us since Cain and Abel in the Bible. I mean, it's just there,
Yeah.
part of mankind. So I don't say, look, if we're all nicer to each other, would we have less violence? I don't believe that to be true.
So with that being said, I mean, I guess I'm looking at it and I'm seeing these no king protests. Do you think that that's legitimate? Is it much ado about nothing? Are the folks on the left just using this as an opportunity to play soil loser because they lost the election to Trump and that's what this is about? Or do you think the arguments on the part of the left with the no kings protest and beyond, do you think there's some legitimacy to that based on what we've seen from the Trump administration since he's been back in office January 21st?
I think the protests are legitimate, and I applaud honest Americans who want to protest things they don't like. I think dissent is a very important part of our success in America. But I always go to this. All right, so you don't like the ICE raids, because that's what this was really all about, this no kings thing. So what's plan B? You down with the Biden open border? You support that? So what do you have? What's your plan to supervise 14 million foreign nationals, 10% of whom are violent, because 10% of every group is violent? So what's your plan to supervise these people? Then you get, it's okay to protest, but you've got to have something to fill the vacuum if you want to be taken seriously, right?
But aren't you concerned when he talks about immigrants or migrants and you hear murderers, rapists, and stuff like that, as if giving the impression that that's who he's targeting, when news came out just the other day that he put a pause on raids involving the agriculture, hotels, restaurants, etc., because obviously it was affecting those businesses. Don't you get concerned about him or the administration putting out that kind of rhetoric, sort of castigating folks in that fashion?
Well, look, you can overdo the rhetoric, but he got elected on it. So,
Okay.
people were tired of seeing innocent uh, Americans murdered by Venezuelans and El Salvadorans and whatever. So Trump said, I'm going to clean it up. And that's why he won. That's exactly why he won. So now he's trying to clean it up. But as I said, he should have an apparatus to examine people who aren't in that category, who get swept up in it. So look, I want social order in this country, and I'm sure you do too. You can't have
Yes, I do.
14 million foreign nationals running around unsupervised. And that's exactly what the Democrats supported. Exactly. We don't want to stop anybody. We don't want to supervise them. Anybody who asks for asylum, oh, yeah, 5 years, we'll see you down the road. Maybe you show up, maybe you don't, but we don't really care whether you do or not. Hey, that's the height of irresponsibility. We're going to be paying for that for the next 20 years. And I mean, that Biden open border was the worst policy decision in history by a sitting president. The worst, because it caused so much damage.
Why do you think Biden made that decision? And the reason I asked that question, Bill O'Reilly, it might be a rhetorical question, might be a bit old, but I'm thinking about how President Obama was called the deporter in chief because he had deported at the time even more people than Trump had deported. Biden was his vice president. How do you ultimately become the president 4 years after Obama has left office and you implement a policy that was the completely antithetical to anything that Obama stood for? That made no sense to me. Do you have an answer to that question?
I do. I don't think Biden was in control of his faculties ever in his 4 years. I think he was diminished when he walked in and he took the inaugural oath. I think his far left cadre who surrounded him in the White House, led by Ron Klain, put a bunch of paper in front of him and he signed it and didn't know what he was doing or the unintended consequences that would stem from it. Look, I'll give you a really vivid example of Joe Biden. This man, for his entire career, used his Catholicism as a campaign item. You remember that, right?
Yes.
Joe goes
I
to
remember.
Mass, Joe receives communion, Joe's a good Catholic, Irish Catholic from Scranton. Okay. While he's president, he comes out to support abortion without any limits whatsoever. No limits. The Hillary Clinton position. Okay. The most extreme position on abortion you could take, Joe Biden takes it and promotes it. A good Catholic is excommunicated by doing that. However, there wasn't one Catholic bishop or the Pope, okay, who suggested the excommunication route for Biden because they were afraid to do it. One bishop in Virginia denied him communion. Okay. Now, how can a man who professes to be an Irish Catholic promote unlimited abortion? You have an answer to that question?
I have no answer to that question. It's inexcusable because it goes
And
against one's religious beliefs,
that's the
and
key.
every
But
Catholic I know would say that.
that's the key to analyzing Biden. Right there. No one can answer the question because there's no logic. Okay? Because he wasn't able mentally to make those kinds of calculations, in my opinion. And you will see coming forth proof of how diminished that man was from day one.
See, that's the argument that folks on the right would say as well. And I get that part. And then when we look at the left protesting Trump in this day and age, to the right, it will fall on deaf ears because everybody's quick to look at the Biden administration, the policies they put forth, how it was supported, whether directly or through one's silence on the left. And as a result, they tried to basically finagle their way through the administration, through his tenure and ultimately assist Kamala Harris in taking office. And so when I see these No Kings protests and everybody complaining about Trump, that's one way that it's going to be dismissed from the right. But where it will be embraced by centrists and folks on the left, Bill O'Reilly, in my opinion, is that I'm thinking about Iran with Israel. You have people thinking about that, yeah, we can end their nuke program, and as a result, they won't be a nuclear threat, and we don't have to worry about a Holocaust down the line, at least on that end. Okay, that's a plus. They're talking about the tariffs. They're saying you got pledges, but where's the real production? What has really happened with that regard? You talked about the war with Ukraine and Russia. That hasn't been resolved. There's still hostages with Hamas, and folks are alluding to genocide taking place in the Gaza Strip because of Netanyahu and some of the actions that he has taken to just completely obliterate Hamas, Hezbollah, and everybody else in between. In the end, what it comes down to me, Bill, is this. There's so much stuff going on with the Trump administration that's up in the air. The one finite thing you can point to is his position on immigration and the effect it has had. And to me, that seems to be his calling card. Let everybody lean towards that because that's a winnable argument in his eyes where almost nothing else is. To that kind of speculation or skepticism, you say what as it pertains to the Trump administration?
I think that analysis is a bit harsh. So, number one, the tariffs and the economy, you've got to give it a little more time. So next week will be 6 months that Trump's been in office. It seems like 6 years, I know, but it's only 6 months.
Yep.
And to turn the entire industrial economy around in this country can take a year or so. But it's trending in the right direction, particularly if Trump and Xi can come to an economic deal, then all the other deals will follow. And Donald Trump knows that. Okay. On the Gaza front, Trump has been a dove on that. He has done everything he can to try to get Hamas to release the hostages and take the pressure off so the Israeli army doesn't go in and continue to pound the place. But the Hamas people will not do it. So you can't blame Trump for that. On Ukraine, he has given Putin every opportunity to be a human being. Unfortunately, Putin is psychotic. Putin is on the cover of my upcoming book, Confronting Evil. Okay? He is not a person that you can deal with rationally. Trump thought he was because he had 4 years of Putin not really misbehaving in his first term. But now, for whatever reason, Putin's out of control. Can you get him back under control? Maybe, particularly if China would help. But right now, that's a miscalculation. So I think that people who hate Trump, who say he's failing on every front, aren't being fair. Need to let this unfold for a few more months. In March of 26, if the economy is wobbling and there's unrest all over the world, the Republicans are done in the midterms. They will lose. Trump knows that.
Last couple of questions before I let you get on out of here, and thank you so much for your time. Real quick,
Sure.
over the course of his presidency, President Trump released cryptocurrency, gold, sneakers, and watches, and now he's reportedly releasing the T1 Trump smartphone with an unlimited plan priced at $47.45 per month via AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile in August that's being built in the United States. First of all, Bill O'Reilly, I mean, what do you think about this? And secondly, are you getting one of these phones? Or do you have a problem with the president monetizing the office?
Yeah, I'm getting 3 of these phones, giving one to you for Christmas, one to Cuomo for Christmas. And look, do I approve of this? No. Do I understand what's going on? Yes. So Trump doesn't have anything to do with the Trump organization. It's run by his 2 sons, Don Jr. and Eric. They are exploiting the hell out of their father's success for monetary gain. Now, all presidents do it to a certain extent. The Biden family did it with subterfuge. Remember that. We didn't know what was going on, and foreign countries were involved. This is basically, hey, we're famous. My father's powerful. So you buy our phone. Now, Trump, it doesn't have anything to do with that because he had to sign off all his holdings to his son. I'm sure when he gets out of office, he'll be back. But there's a private club in D.C. It goes on and on and on. But every single president, with the exception of Jimmy Carter, and Ronald Reagan wasn't too much because when Reagan left office, he was in the throes of dementia. But every single other president capitalized monetarily on their position. You know how much Barack Obama gets for a speech? Do you know how much?
No.
350,000. 350. He gets more than you get for a speech, Stephen A. I mean, I'd be outraged if I were you, but he gets more than you get. So I'm not, that doesn't bother me in the sense that, and I'm not a bad behavior point to other bad behavior kind of guy, but this is our system. We're capitalists here, and the Trump people are exploiting their gain.
Last question. You know, Donald Trump is unapologetic about playing to his base. People will be quick to say he's doing what he promised he would do, etc. Do you think that's going to be enough for the GOP to win the midterms? And do you think that's enough for the GOP to win the election in 2028 if he continues on the path that he is going on? Or does there need to be some alterations as far as you can see?
Well, if you base it on history, which I always do, the economy will tell who's going to win the midterms. So as I said, the economy is rolling along. Next spring, Republicans will do very well because that's everything to the American people. They are nervous. Lots of them don't have any money. They need the economy to be robust, and that far and away. You know, I say China USA is the biggest story in the world, and it is. But for our electoral situation, the economy dominates. So Trump is a dice roller. He doesn't play it safe. He's going, he wants to be one of the greatest presidents. He wants to be on Mount Rushmore. He can't be on Mount Rushmore, so he'll buy his own mountain and put his face up there. But he wants to be one of the greatest. And he always, because I wrote confronting the presidents, he's always there. Where am I now? Where am I now? I go, it's still incomplete, Mr. President. He had a good first term, and he did. But now a lot of turbulence. He goes, no, it's going to work out. And he believes it will work out. Fervently, he believes it. There's no insecurity on his part. Okay? Whether it will or not, of course, no one knows but God.
The one and only Bill O'Reilly. Appreciate you, my man. As always, thank you so much for your time. BillO'Reilly.com, best-selling author, political commentator extraordinaire. I always appreciate the education, my man. Thank you so much, man. I'll talk to you soon, all right?
All right. Good question, Stephen A. Thanks for having me in.
Well, you know, the fact that you said it's good questions makes me feel good inside. It really, really does, Bill. I know I'm on the right track. Thanks a lot, buddy. I appreciate you.
See you soon.
All right. Coming up, Ice Cube's in the house. Joining the show. We're talking about season 8 of the Big Three that tipped off this weekend with some fireworks. But first, we'll get into the NBA Finals as Game 5 tips off tonight in Oklahoma City. We'll get into that and then some right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Let's get to the NBA Finals, where Game 5 takes place tonight in Oklahoma City. The Thunder managed to tie the series Friday night off the strength of MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Shea Butter is what I call him, who dropped 35 points on the Pacers in Indy. Now the Thunder have taken home court advantage back heading into Game 5 tonight. I think the Thunder win tonight, but I got to tell you something right now. This is a great NBA Finals series, and I think it's going 7 games. I think Oklahoma's wins Game 5. I think the Pacers go home and win Game 6, and I think we're right back here in Oklahoma City this Sunday night for Game 7 to win it with the championship on the line. That's what I think is going to happen. I've watched this team, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and as elite as they are defensively, which they showed in Game 4, by the way, when they went on a 12-1 run in the last 2 minutes and 58 seconds of regulation. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had to end up saving the day because this brother's something special, and he brings it to the table. Make no mistake about it. But it took that because offensively, they're not what you would expect an elite team to be. As the game wanes, OKC struggles. That's a big problem. They struggle offensively. I also think that Coach Daigneault made a huge mistake to start this NBA Finals series. They won 68 games during the regular season. They won 12 games in the playoffs. They came into the NBA Finals with a record of 80-18 this year, including the playoffs. And you alter your starting lineup before a game is played? Why? Why? To me, psychologically, that kind of warped Isaiah Hartenstein and compromised Chet Holmgren to a degree. Chet Holmgren is shooting 9% from three-point range. That ain't going to cut it. All right? He's not playing awful in other aspects, but he can't buy a 3 right now. So that's problematic for them. So we have to look at it from that standpoint and say, what the hell is that about? So we got to take that into consideration. Then we got to look at a guy like Jalen Williams, who's one of only 2 NBA players this year, him and Evan Mobley of the Cleveland Cavaliers, who made an all-NBA team and made an all-NBA defensive team. Only 2 players did that this year. Jalen Williams was one of them. So the brother can play, and we know he's getting to the hole, and he's handling his business in that regard. But when it comes to shooting 3 points, he's shooting for 21%. That ain't going to cut it either. This is why Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has to come to the rescue. The most reliable weapon for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander throughout these playoffs has been Alex Caruso coming off the bench. Nobody else has been reliable or trustworthy. And even though Lou Dort's shooting the ball effectively, it's when it's open threes. When he's contested and you run him off the three-point line, he's not doing much for you offensively. Defensively, collectively, he brings it, they bring it, no doubt. But offensively, they struggle. And Indiana can score offensively because you got Halliburton, you've got Nembhard, you've got Nesmith. Miles Turner is struggling. I get it. Pascal Siakam's not. You look at Pascal Siakam along with those 3 dudes that I mentioned, along with an Obi Toppin coming off the bench, a Benedict Mathurin coming off the bench. Even though Benedict Mathurin dropped 27 in Game 3, then turns around in Game 4 in the last closing minutes, misses 3 or 4 free throws, and commits a foul off the ball on an inbounds play, basically giving OKC 5 points. So you look at it from that standpoint, Indiana can score, but they're prone to making mistakes. I think on the road in OKC for game 5, knowing that you don't need to go back to Indiana down 3-2, I think OKC handles their business and they win tonight in game 5. They go back Thursday to Indy for game 6, where I think Indy should win that game. And then we come back here for game 7. The Thunder are 6-0 and the Pacers are 5-0 after a loss this entire postseason. None of them have lost 2 games in a row. And I think that's going to remain the case in this series as well. We got a big-time NBA Finals. I know it's 2 small markets, OKC and Indiana, but I got to tell you, in terms of thrills, you couldn't ask for much better than what both these teams have given you. I'm picking OKC to win Game 5 tonight. Let me transition. Since we're on the subject of basketball, I got to get to my next guest because he is a multi-hyphenate, legendary rapper, actor, and producer of some of our favorite films, an entrepreneur, a founding member of the iconic rap collective NWA, and of course, the co-founder of the Big 3 Basketball League. We know him. We love him. You know who I'm talking about. The one and only Ice Cube's in the house. My brother, what's going on? Welcome back to the show.
All good, man. Good to be here. Thank you.
Man, please, my pleasure. Now, am I reading this correctly? Season 8 of the Big 3 tipped off this weekend, bro. Season 8.
Season 8. You know, it's been a nice long ride, but it's been a great ride. And season 8. That means the people really love the style of play, and they rewarding us with a little longevity here. So we're gonna keep it going.
Express to everybody what your vision was when you first started this league and whether or not you believe that vision has become reality.
I go back to what I said in 2016, 2017. If this league, I want it to last 100 years, like the NFL or the NBA, which is going on 100. So, yeah, I want it to be here. Why not? We got this style of play. 3-on-3 has always been part of basketball. It's never really got its shine, and now it's starting to shine, and people saying it's a great style of play. You know, mano a mano. You gotta be able to pass, dribble, shoot, and defend to have success, and it's a great game.
You know, when you think about what the Big 3, I mean, listen, I got to tell you, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of what you've done to the league. With the league, I'm proud of the opportunities you've given cats. You know, that obviously some got retired from the NBA and stuff like that, but they still got skills. They just ain't trying to run up and down the court a full 94 feet for 82 nights a year, that kind of thing. But when I think about this league and what you've done for so many people, what are the kind of things these players are telling you the Big 3 has done for them?
One thing we never counted on was how much this league would help mental health of our heroes on the court, getting them back in the arena where they belong. These guys have honed their skills, as long as you have, doing your art. And just think, somebody can walk up one day and tell you it's over just because of what? They don't have room for you. What I mean? It's like, yo, these guys that still want to play at the highest level, they go overseas, but they want to be at home. They want to play in those arenas that they used to play in. They want to play in front of, American crowds, their friends, their family. They bring their kids to the game. So never thought, we'd be helping players' mental health as much as we are when it comes to, what they can achieve on the basketball court.
I'm seeing former NBA players that's a part of the league right now, and I'm told former NBA champions Dwight Howard and Lance Stevenson were ejected from Saturday's season opener between Miami and Los Angeles that spilled into the media box. What the hell was that about? I mean, they think you got cats fighting and doing all of that right now. What's that about? How you feel about that, Ice Cube?
Hey, man, it's part of the game. Like, they ready to play. They're passionate. They not just out there because, they getting, crazy money. They out there because they love the game. And this is what the fans want to see as far as the passion. Now, we don't condone the fighting. We let you trash talk a little. We don't want players touching each other. What I mean? We want players to, kind of watch their language, a little bit on TV. But we want the passion. And it happened. It spilled over in our first game between two rookies. This is their first game in the Big Three, and welcome to the Big Three.
The Big Three, which airs on CBS, by the way, for everybody that's watching them, debuting 8 all new franchises. Tell me about them. I'm looking at Boston, Chicago, Detroit, Dallas, Houston, Miami. LA. Talk to me about that. 8 new teams?
Yeah, well, we decided to plant ourselves in cities. Before we were kind of a, barnstorming league, not connected to any cities. We wanted to create Big Three fans and fans of the style of the game. And now that we have that, it's time to plant our flags in cities. We opening up a real big fandom when it comes to that. So it's unlocking a lot of eyes onto the Big Three and a lot of interest. When you got your city pride to add to your expectations of the game, it just takes us to another level. So we got 8 now. We want to go to 12. We want to go to 16, 20. We don't have a team in New York yet, so Stephen A, you might want to put some, put a team together, grab that New York squad. So you never know, you know what I
I
mean?
might have to. I might have to. You can't have a basketball league and no team in New York. We definitely got to talk about that. Make no mistake about it. But I want to know this, Q. When you came in, when you started this, since its inception, what's been the biggest challenge for you that you've encountered in trying to help this league grow?
It's been a challenge in different ways. We really thought we were going to get more love from the sports media, having the names that we have involved with this league. You've always, been able to, shine light on the league with your platform, which I appreciated from day one. But
Yes, right.
a lot of the sports media looks over the league, and it's a shame because in the dog days of summer, for hoop fans, this is
Right.
to me, a league that is bite sized. We got 10 weeks and we crown the champion, and then we can get to the NFL. So it's pretty cool for the summer. So I just wish the sports media get with the program.
I totally agree with you that I certainly could do more, and I am going to do more. But I tell you also, I think the players could do more as well. I'm not talking about playing because I know they bring what they bring, but I'm talking about the Big Three. When you're looking forward to, I just saw Dwight Howard the other day. He about to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He didn't mention the Big Three. It would have been nice if he mentioned that. You see what I'm saying? Stuff like that, just letting cats know, yo, this ain't the only kind of basketball that's going on. We got some skills that we still want to showcase as well. So I think a lot of the players could do the same. It's a collective effort. The media, you're the one person, you're the one reliable commodity with the Big Three from the standpoint you always are promoting this league. And I think the players, they got a lot to say with their podcasts and all of that stuff. They could do a lot more as well. Wouldn't you say that?
We would love that. Some players do, use their platform to hype up the Big Three, but we would love for the players to do more of that. Why the players love the league is that we don't put, too many like things on them like that. If they want to do it, it's got to be out the love of their heart. We're not going to require them to do that. We're not going to require them to talk to
Right.
the media. They got to do it out the love of the game, and then have something to say to the world. So, I don't think we're going to change that. Of course, we would love for them to talk about it 24/7. But at the end of the day, grown men, it's up to them on what they want to talk about.
One of the things that you've done with this league, it's become more than just sports. It touches culture, music, community, all of that. Was that always your intention?
Always, I thought, music, culture, and sports is like, peanut butter and jelly with the milk. You know what I mean? It all go together. It's perfect. So that's always been, our philosophy. We had Jim Jones come out, rock the house today. On Saturday during game one. We're gonna have
Right.
Scarface out there in Baltimore. So, we plan on bringing the best, entertaining the people with basketball, music, culture. We got break dancers out there from Monster Energy. We got DJ, dancers, dunkers, everything you can name at the Big Three.
Right.
So it's it's a carnival. It's a lot of fun at the events.
You've also talked about ownership involving, ownership opportunities for these players, and I know equity is always been important with the Big Three. And how different is that, from other leagues in your estimation in terms of ownership opportunities for these players? Explain that to the audience.
Well, a lot of our day one players who helped start the league have ownership in the league, which is amazing. And once the league is profitable, we'll be able to start cashing them out, and that'd be a great thing. At the end of the day, it's really about people putting groups together. Teams are very reasonable right now. At the end of the day, compared to other pro teams. And so that's going to change very rapidly as teams will start to get purchased. We got 4 owners now, looking for 4 more, and then we're going to expand the league. So it's going to continue to go up. So we want some of the players, who want ownership in a league like this to come forward. Like I said, put groups together on some of these franchises and think about, their generational wealth. We think we got it here with the Big Three.
Big Three's embraced innovation like the special all red fireball 3 rules, the 4-point shot, a 14-second shot clock, and a bring the fire challenge where teams can contest a foul call with an in-game one-on-one. How has that enhanced the game in your estimation?
Well, if you look at 3-on-3, if you saw the Olympics, it feels amateur if you really put it frankly. But at the end of the day, the Big Three, we professional league. We want to have our wrinkles that helped our game. We wanted to have things that you couldn't see nowhere else in a pro basketball game, like our 4-point shot, like our bring the fire rule, 1-shot free throws. Seeing a guy shoot a free throw from the 3-point line or the 4-point circle is pretty unique. These little wrinkles have made our game fun to play and fun to watch. And it's always competitive. These rules are not just because we are thinking of, gimmicks. These rules are built to help you win the game. And we saw some great comebacks this weekend. Team down at least 11. Another team had 49, and then they come back and win the game. So it's designed perfectly for this game.
One of the last questions I got for you on the Big Three, man. Big Three head coach and basketball legend Nancy Lieberman is the first woman to become a head coach of a men's professional team as Power's head coach. She led the team to the title in 2018. Have you considered expanding the league to include more women athletes?
Sure. We offered Caitlin Clark, a shot at our league last year, and it didn't work out. We thought she could probably have a Billie Jean King moment. And we thought she could maybe have success in our league because, small guards have had some success in the league, like, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf and Nate Robinson, not comparing them. But at the end of the day, we thought, more than a bigger player, she could maybe get loose. So it didn't happen. The player captains pick who they want to be in the league. We got owners now. You never know what's going to happen. So if a player captain pick a woman to be on his team, then she's in the league.
Opening weekend was this past weekend. How long does this league last this particular summer? When's the end date? When's the championship game?
Championship, August 24th. 10-week season. We got one bye. So count us down. Check us out every weekend. We got games either Saturday or Sunday, CBS and Vice TV. And hey, come if we in your town, come check it out because you got to see 7-footers play 3-on-3. It's incredible.
Well, I'm coming. I'm coming. I'm going to sit with you. You're going to have a seat for me right next to you. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, damn, courtside seats are hard to come by every damn place. But it better not be with Cube if I'm in the house. I better have a seat waiting for me right next to you, bro. I mean, last time I was there, I was sitting with you in LL a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no problem, man. You always got to see. If my wife don't come, you right there. If she there, you got to sit one seat over.
Now I can't come before the wife. I can't come before the wife. Man, what you been doing with yourself, man? How much of your time is being taken up by this? Because, I mean, you're an actor. You obviously a musician. You know, you be doing your thing. And I got to admit to you, I haven't even seen you to say this to you. It hurt my damn feelings when you sat up there and sang to the Yankees. When when you told them to bow down. That hurt my feelings, Cube. That hurt my feelings. I mean, because you know I'm a Yankee fan, and I knew they were in trouble. And then they came with Fat Joe. I'm like, yo, I love him for the Knicks, but the Yankees, nah, he stepped out of pocket there. I was like, nah, he ain't Cube. It ain't gonna work. I was
Oh
depressed,
man,
bro.
at the end of the day, I had a fun. I'm a big Dodger fan, so I had to do it.
Right.
The Yankees
Yeah.
done hurt our hearts so many times in the game.
Right. That's
We
right.
got to try to get an edge some way, somehow. So it was great to be a part of that. And it's just I'm a busy man, but I love it. Spend 18 hours a day on the big three. When I commit to something, I commit 110%. So that's what it's all
Right.
about right now for me. It's all big three. Then we'll jump back on the music. I got a tour coming, the Truth to Power tour in the fall. So
Right.
you can't get rid of me, Stephen A.
I'm trying to figure that shit out. I'm like, damn, that brother music career spanned 40 years, and he about to come out with a new album. And by the way, you don't look 40. So I'm looking at you like, damn, it's 40 years in the music industry. I mean, that's a lot of time, but you don't look it, bro. You don't look it.
Hey, man, people don't realize, I started as a real young man. I was 14, 15 years old when I started. Wrote my first hit song at 16, a song called Boys in the Hood for Eazy-E. Rest in peace. So
Right.
been here,
Rest in peace.
doing it. And it's time to celebrate that. 4 decades of attitude. You got to catch me when I come to town.
Well, listen, man, let me not forget this for my audience. You were recently honored with your handprint ceremony at the Chinese Theater Hollywood Walk of Fame, celebrating your iconic career. Fans, family, friends on hand. What did that day mean to you?
Man, that's movie star status. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, a lot of people got stars. Not a lot got their hands and feet in cement in front of the man's Chinese theater. So great
Right.
honor, something you don't expect. When you get the call, you just feel, gratitude's attitude for real. You just feel blessed to be in this position and to have a career that people are recognizing decades later.
Man, is it true that you got I'm hearing these reports that the Last Friday film is in development? Is that true?
Yeah,
Fans
it's
gonna get
true.
that?
Finally, we've
Damn. Okay.
been fighting to do it that way for a long time. Thank God there's new leadership at New Line and Warner Brothers with Mike DeLuca. Now it's time to start putting the pieces together.
I can never talk to you without giving your son some love. I saw Den of Thieves 2 a few months ago. The brother's doing this thing. O'Shea Jackson. I mean, proud papa. I'm imagining you proud. That brother's got talent, my man. He's got a real bright future in Hollywood as far as I'm concerned. He can act. I love what I see from your son. How are you feeling about what he's doing with himself these days?
Oh man, he's a better actor than me. You know what I mean? Like amazing range. Fully dedicated. And proud that he's running with it. He's not walking with it. And so, all we can do as parents, I know Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there that's really involved in their kids' life.
No doubt.
And so, look,
Same to
to
you.
to really be in your kids' life and watch them do something, put them in a place to win, position to win. You want them to do what it takes. I can only put you in a position to win. Can't play for you. So, he out there doing what he need to do to win the game. So, I'm proud of him.
Ice, before I let you get on out of here, man, forgive me for fearing left and asking you this question. You're a LA native. You see what's going on in the streets of Los Angeles right now with all these protests because of the Trump administration and ICE and what they're doing with migrants and stuff like that. And you see a lot of people protesting across the country, but obviously a lot of it is emanating with the No Kings protest, emanating out of Los Angeles. What has been your thoughts about it? Because you've never been shy about expressing what you believe is right and what have you. And obviously, you know, you're politically conscientious as well. Your thoughts about what you've been seeing?
It's heartbreaking, to see the city go up like this, just to see the city the government handle it in the way they handling it. You know, they're using a lot of humiliation, and they're being very, heavy-handed. I understand the law is the law and all that, but why you gotta be so heavy-handed with what you're doing, so disrespectful? Um, Churches, weddings, you hit in these places, man, and it's just, I think it could be done in a more respectful way, man. It's not right.
I got you. I appreciate you, my man. Always appreciate your voice, appreciate what you're doing. You know I'm always here for you, my man. You take care of yourself, and I look forward to talking to you and seeing you soon, all right? You be good. Take it easy.
Take it easy, man. Always, anytime.
Always. No doubt. One and only Ice Cube right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. My thanks to the one and only Cube himself. You can catch the Big Three on CBS and Vice TV. Also, the Truth to Power Tour coming to a city near you very, very soon. That's it for this edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. I hope y'all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. I'll be back in a couple of days. Remember, I got an NBA Finals to cover. Game 5 tonight in Oklahoma City. So make sure you check it out. Don't miss it. I'll be on NBA Countdown on ESPN and ABC tonight, at least an hour before the game. So check me out there with the crew, Kendrick Perkins, Bob Myers, Malika Andrews, and so on. Make sure you don't miss it. Until later, y'all, this is Stephen A. signing off. Peace and love. Talk to you in a couple of days.